Okay guys, this is Eric, back to This Isn't Fenny Anymore. Sorry I haven't graced you with my presence for a while. I know you have missed me dearly, I'm sure. I had some kind of deep thoughts that I hadn't ever considered before. You notice on the map, Forrest grays out all the unusable area and even mentioned certain states that he said the treasure was not in. He said it was not in Idaho, it was not in Utah, and the treasure was buried between, I want to say, 5,000 and 10,200 feet. What he didn't say, that Warm Waters Halt wasn't in one of these other places. Hebgen Lake's only 3 miles. The edge of Hebgen Lake's only 3 miles from Idaho. To suggest that the treasure's not in Idaho does not say, and this is one of, a thing Forrest might consider doing, does not say that Warm Waters Halt doesn't originate in Idaho somewhere, and that Warm Waters Halt couldn't start at an elevation that was much higher than 10,200 feet, and then you take a canyon down into a searchable region that qualifies. But one thing we know for sure, and this is why it's not good to get too abstract, is that we know that, in his opinion, multiple people have gotten the first couple clues right and have been within 200 feet of the treasure. Which suggests to me that even though I had these interesting ideas, maybe to expand the search for some of these areas, where Warm Waters Halt, outside of the searchable map that he gave us, because technically the treasure could have an originating start trail from off the map and then go onto the map and find it. That would be really disingenuous if that were true. If there was any searchable part of Idaho that you needed to start on and then led you into Montana or Wyoming, I think that'd be extremely disingenuous. It took me a while to find the Montana Atlas. I didn't want to spend $25 or $30 on it. I found one on eBay for $6. A Montana Atlas with topographical data in large map form instead of like unfolding a map. I'll get into it in a minute. As well as I was able to find a map of all BLM land in Wyoming. So it's a giant map of Wyoming that kind of highlights BLM land. So I got the Montana resource, the Wyoming resource. Haven't got one for New Mexico. I'm just probably not going to get anything for Colorado because I have told you before. All voices that you hear are in where? They're in two places. New Mexico, somewhere near, you could draw a radius of about 30 to 40 miles from Taos Mountain or Wheeler Peak in any direction, maybe even up to the Colorado border, potentially. And then from West Yellowstone, or from maybe the center of Yellowstone, drawing a radius about 40 or 50 miles in all directions from there. As I started to process where Warm Waters Halt and where it could potentially be, and thinking about unspoken facts, being able to retrieve something that's on either private property or national park property, and how difficult that would be. I don't think Forrest, I don't know enough about his life and his archaeological digs to know if he did anything sinister or shady. But from what I understand about him as a person, I don't think he would or expect anyone to break the law. When he says being brave, I don't necessarily think he's saying like break federal laws to find this. Imagine if he were your grandfather. He wouldn't want that for you. He wouldn't want to jeopardize your happiness and your freedom to find something that he left behind. That's just not something a grandfatherly, we'll use that, a grandfatherly figure would do. Based on that, I just do not believe that the treasure is in Yellowstone National Park. And that's like, whoa, that might be, take your breath away a little bit and say, well, I know it's there. All the clues, all my solves, they've been 9 different solves, and they all are within the park. You just look at the unwritten facts about, what he would say about the treasure is that you wouldn't have to steal it, right? He didn't say that, but if it were in a national park, you would have to steal it, because it's not a finders keepers kind of thing. When something is buried or hidden, it becomes public property or government property if it's left behind. I do not believe that we could rule out Warm Waters Halting being a specific locale within the park. And so for that reason, as we go through this list of places that, and again, I don't have a New Mexico atlas just yet. So I only have a Montana atlas as well as a Wyoming BLM map, so a giant map of Wyoming. And those are my two resources that I'm going to be using to determine my list of where warm waters halt. And this is going to be primarily focused on where warm waters halt locations for northern hunters. Multiple people have gotten this right. It can't be ridiculously obscure. Based on the definition of where warm waters halt, we went into it a few videos back. There are certain qualifications that have to be met to qualify for being in this list of where warm waters halt, based on definitions. If we're using true definitions of stuff and not bending it to be what we want it to be, there are only so many places within this North Search area that could actually qualify for warm waters halt. And again, I haven't done a boots on the ground search, but one of these places that will be on this list will be the actual correct answer to where warm waters halt. And then from there, it's for you to decide where House of Brown is, or where Take the Canyon Down, what that means, the direction that you're being asked to go. We will get to the maps and we will begin making our list now. And as we go through this list, I promise there is no agenda here. Like, it's either I'm finding the treasure myself, or I'm going to aid somebody else being able to find the treasure. There's just too much territory and too many options. Even if you had all the clues right, there's still a chance that you're not going to find it. And that's why it's important to share and vocalize your opinion. So maybe something I say might stem someone's search in the right direction. They find it, and guess what? If somebody finds it this year and it's not me, it means I'll be able to sleep easier. And if I find it, I'll be able to sleep easier. I want this thing found, whether by me or by someone else. So here's the list. If you have arguments with this list, I want you to revert to a couple of my other videos on why I suggest that there are certain localized regions that need to be searched, and it's not just the entire map of possibilities. Starting with Hebgen Lake. Hebgen Lake being a possible where warm waters halt, and you say, whoa, Hebgen Lake is not warm. It's like 50 to 60 degrees year-round if it's not frozen. But if you revert to one of my videos about the word warm, what that can mean in terms of friendly waters, you think about a warm sensation, something that might do to someone. That was a place he spent a great deal of time, right near West Yellowstone growing up. So it could be a place that he views very fondly, and he would have extensive knowledge of that lake and all the stories that he shares in the lake. And maybe on the bank of that lake, and you start drawing to potential homes of brown from that spot. So that's possible number one. In a very like manner, Yellowstone Lake in the middle of the park. Now again, I do not believe that the treasure is in Yellowstone National Park. I do not believe, for legal reasons, I do not believe it's there. That doesn't mean the very first clue, or even the first two clues, or three clues couldn't be in the park and then lead you outside the park. I don't know. But at Yellowstone Lake could be another one of those, a very warm, a fond lake. Remember, he talked about fishing over a bridge on the lake, or at a finger of that lake. There are numerous hot spring basins within Yellowstone National Park. I wouldn't say it's too many to list, but it's too many to sum up in two sentences. If you just look at a map of Yellowstone, an enlarged map like what I have in my atlas. So I've got this big boy right here, as well as Wyoming BLM Recreation Guide. So these are a couple of my resources that I've tracked down. Like you said, get a good map, right? To really scour the map and search for potential answers to this riddle. Because remember, he said it doesn't require specialized knowledge. It just requires the poem and a really good map. This is America's #1 line of topographic maps. This one retailed for $20 bucks. I think they're 25 on if you go to delorme.com. I think it links to Garmin, but you can still get these gazetters. So if you look at the park, there are just so many hot springs areas, small lakes, small warm lakes, sulfur hills. There's so many points of interest. It'd be really, really difficult to say which one is the one. it's there. If you're searching the north area and you tried every possibility, you're eventually going to be right. Mammoth Hot Springs within Yellowstone is the furthest north hot spring, and it's right near the north entrance of Yellowstone National Park. Thermopolis, which hasn't been mentioned a lot, but is a city southeast of Yellowstone, right near the Indian reservation. That has there's actually a state park there, the Hot Springs State Park boundary, and it's a state park that's known for literally one thing: having a gigantic hot spring, one of the largest in the world. It's a town of about 2,500 people. Their entire industry is based on the tourism of Hot Springs State Park. It's not super far away from Yellowstone, and it's possible that growing up as a kid they would have driven past it and he would have been able to experience it. I don't know. I'm just saying it's on the map. It's near the localized region, and it's certainly worth consideration. A position on the Yellowstone caldera boundary. Now, this is a little bit different than a hot springs basin, but there's the outline of the caldera boundary. If you're not aware by now, Yellowstone is sitting on top of a giant supervolcano that, if it erupted, would litter like 3/4 of the country with volcanic ash. This gazetteer by Delarme that I have actually shows the caldera boundary. Maybe that's a place where warm waters halt or where lava halts. I'm not really sure. Something that does fit the definitions has a definitive boundary or position, so it's something that could fit. The boundary of Yellowstone, more specifically any road exit. So there are 5 official park entrances, because I do believe that where warm waters halt to Homa Brown is a place that you would drive. So it's not a trek through the forest where you cross from the Yellowstone boundary in the middle of nowhere to somewhere. I think that it's point 1 to point 2 is a driven experience, and so there are 5 official park entrances, as well as by the west entrance the road actually curves in and out of the park once more. Even though it's not an official park entrance, it still kind of goes in and out of the park. This list is to cater specifically to north hunters. If you're a north hunter and your where warm waters halt is not one of these places that are listed, you're searching in the wrong area, or you're at least starting in the wrong area. But based on the definition of the words that he specifically chose, these are the only places that fit. If you have an argument against that, or you feel that your where warm waters halt somehow fits the description of the words and is not found on this list, please pose me a really good argument as to why you're correct. And so we have to go through all the possibilities, every permutation, so that we can get this down to literally like 4 or 5 legitimate solves for the first 2 clues. It's not loose interpretations, to be able to get close. And even though your solve might sound like really good, it doesn't mean that the treasure's there, because it's his mind, it's not ours. I think if we're all about what I thought, I mean, I probably wouldn't have made it so hard in the first place. I want to make sure somebody found this before I died, but that's just me. If you like this video and you like this comprehensive list of places, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'm not going to be the biggest Forrest Fenn channel, but if we can get enough searchers to this channel, then we can get actual level logical heads. I'm on Reddit and I see some of the stuff that people are suggesting, and it's just asinine, like how outlandish people are getting. This is not like some cryptic, poem that you need an Egyptologist or you need someone that's trilingual to be able to, well, this word in this language, this Shoshone language, and this in Spanish means, dude, I promise you it's not this difficult. We're talking about using a map and using the poem and drawing 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and literally walking there and getting it. And remember what he said. He said the person that solves it will move with confidence. If it's open to loose interpretation, you're probably wrong. If you can't convince someone else of your solve, then it's probably wrong. So, but even if you can convince me, it doesn't mean it's right. That's why we got to try every logical explanation. It's probably about 20 legitimate where warm waters halt. But that doesn't mean that all of these will qualify once we figure out every possible home of Brown. Anyways, guys, leave me a comment if you don't like the video and you are going to give me a thumbs down, be a man or woman about it and tell me why. Tell me what I've done. Tell me how I've wronged you so much and how you feel this video is so incorrect. Because anyone that's selfish enough to harbor information from others is probably not going to find it anyways. Like, this really is going to take a village to find. One person's going to be the lucky person in that village to find it. I hope it's me, but if it's not me, I hope that someone finds it soon so I don't waste my life hoping and thinking that it could be me, right? I'd rather me find it this summer or someone else find it this summer. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. Have a good one.